everybody, it's Tyler and welcome to another Let's Draw episode. We are going to be drawing He-Man today, which you know from the title of the stream and the title of the video, which is very exciting. I feel like that's a natural progression for us on this exploration through Masters of the Universe. You know, he's the head honcho, right? So let's see what we can do with He-Man today. See how far we can get. I have a little bit of a stretch goal with this one, in that I am thinking about including his battle cat in this scene. So we'll see if we can throw that in. We might get to it today. Might happen on the next stream. We'll see. But I'm curious, what's your favorite character from Masters of the Universe? It's kind of hard to decide. I'm kind of a villains person myself, so yeah, we started with some villains, and I think that's just a little bit of a clue as to who my favorites might be, but I'm curious, who is your favorite character from this universe? All right, so now what you're seeing here is a little bit of a different tone to the canvas from what we've been using. Previously, we've been starting with black and ending with black, and with this one, I'm going to try a little tweak to the strategy. We're going to try to start the way I would actually normally start with my typical pieces, where we're going to do dark lines on a light background for the first block in, and then we're going to transition at some point into the style that we're going for with this series. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be exploration. It's going to be an experiment, as it always is. So come along for the ride. Hope you're doing something fun and creative on your end, and let's jump into it. And hopefully my microphone is working this time. That was an issue last time. I think we got it sorted this time. So yeah, hopefully that's all working good. Okay, so we got to do a block out here. He-Man, he's a big, buff, beefy, muscly dude. So got to make sure we got all of our muscles in check on this one as well. But the pose is the first thing we need to get sorted out. And I want something that's got some confidence. You know, he's got to look like he's ready for battle. So I'm gonna also kind of work a little small here, so you guys will have to get out your binoculars for this phase. But this is something you guys can try, is when you're early on in a piece and you're doing some thumbnails, try being zoomed out on what you're doing so that you can get a lot of progress in quickly, and that you're not thinking about details too soon, and you can assess the overall gesture and flow of everything a little bit easier. I find it easier anyway. So we can kind of like do some quick little body measurements here, and hopefully get some good anatomy going on. I think this arm wants to be outstretched, and I think he'll be holding his sword in this hand, or maybe yeah, we'll do the sword in this hand, but he has like a battle axe too, right? So let's maybe put the battle axe on his back, because he has that like chest harness thing, right? That armor that he wears, and so I think we could have that axe slotted in the back there, which would be cool. It's a neat shape, the broad axe with that iconic head on it, so I think it'd be nice to include that. So we'll see if we can put that in, and then I'm thinking maybe this arm is using that round buckler that he has. So we'll try something like that. Could of course change our mind. Oops. Here I'm already klutzing on the keyboard shortcuts here. It's actually, it's because when I got this big old microphone in front of me, I can't glance down at the keyboard as easily. It's really the reason I sometimes hit the wrong thing. We'll definitely go for like a nice wide stance as well for him. And we'll just continue to flip as we go, checking for our symmetry. And what you'll notice is that, yeah, this is really just, it's like a stick figure basically, but, you know, why not start with something really simple for yourself so you can see the basic proportions. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe his battle axe is like on his back here, and maybe we got something going on back there. I don't want to create any weird tangents with his head, so we got to be a little cautious there, but I think maybe we could include it. I don't feel like that would be too difficult. And then if we throw the battle cat in, I think we just probably put the battle cat, you know, like back here somewhere. You know, doing something like that. Here would be his head over here. There's his ears. That's my best cat drawing I've done yet. I hope you like it. So that might be a reasonable starting point. I guess maybe, you know, we got a little bit of limited width using this this canvas aspect ratio, so we got to be a bit careful about if we want to zoom in on He-Man, we don't want to also cut off the battle cat, so we may have to, like, it's better that his head is, also he's got to be big enough, right? Because he gets, like He-Man rides this thing, so yeah, maybe we opt to show the head, because there's also like cool kind of armor on the head and stuff, and I think if we can show that part of Battle Cat, that's probably the most important part. And then if a little bit of the back side of the cat gets cut off, or we could maybe foreshorten it too, like maybe it's coming out in 3/4. But I don't want to create any weird tangents here either, but we'll play with that. I think that that's something that's very possible. And then I also want to leave some room in the back for Castle Grayskull, because it feels like it would just be a total missed opportunity to not have Castle Grayskull in here in the back somewhere. If there's any character we're going to do from this universe who should have Castle Grayskull in the back, I feel like it's got to be He-Man. So we got to get him. Keep Battle Cat's a bonus, and I really want to get Castle Grayskull in the back. So those are the three things we're targeting. Let's do a flip C. Okay. Sure. Feels not too bad. Let's go ahead and knock this back. Let's knock this back, and let's get in here and let's do kind of a medium shapes pass. And I don't know at what point we're going to transition to the light on dark scheme. This is the experiment of this one, is to see what it's like to transition. Because there's some work I think that we might end up doing in this pass that if we go too far, it would be a little bit of a waste. But it's hard to say. I think we'll want to have him with a nice kind of open mouth here, confident, sort of a battle cry expression going on. Seems like it would be appropriate. And we probably need to make sure that he's feeling muscular enough, right? So Definitely want to lean into that build, but at the same time, I don't want it to look totally ridiculous. It's kind of like there's some kind of threshold we have to be within to make this work. So let's kind of play with that. I know he's got a little bit of a silly face right now. Don't worry, we're not going to be going with that. I'll give him some angry eyebrows so he looks a little less silly in the meantime. Or I don't know, maybe that makes him look more silly. But the thought here with this underdrawing is that we could potentially optimize our light on dark pass a little bit by having a more robust underdrawing so that our marks can be a little bit more less experimental and more, whoops, that's a little long, a little less experimental and more guided with the underdrawing. And yeah, that I don't know if that'll actually be worth it or not, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I'm thinking some kind of a lower angle could be really cool. So we did a little bit of that with Skeletor, and I thought that had a good vibe. So I think that might be something to try and continue here. So like our horizon line is pretty low in the scene. He might be a little stretched out, so let's just pull him in a little bit. Scale him up overall. The joy of digital. I can just get in here and tinker. And then, yeah, we're just going to do a kind of like a, I think we'll just do a kind of a fist for that hand there. And then a gripping hand for that sword. And then I've got a picture up of his equipment, so I know what shapes we're working with here. And remember, that was the thing with Skeletor. We had to go look up what his staff looked like, so I didn't want to have to do that this time. So, and, I mean, we'll still make, I think, some unique tweaks and design adjustments if we feel like we need to, but I don't want to stray too far from it. So there's like a, yeah, there's this guy. Actually, it's funny because well, so the blade itself has this kind of a shape. I know I'm not being perfectly straight here. I don't mind at this phase. We can get exact later. I thought, yeah, let's actually block that in first, so I can get the hilt shape feeling like it has the right negative space in here, right? Like that's kind of a key thing with this design. And then yeah, there's a bevel. Actually, here, let me use my straight line tool so I'm not making this look too janky. Okay. Right, so there's that, and then we can do want to have his chest armor. Let's flip that, make sure that's looking okay. Yeah, I thought so. It looked a little off. Also, may need to be, well, I don't want to lose too much volume on his bursting pectoralis muscles, so I'm really resisting the urge to go in and get that face figured out, but it will be very soon. Should that, maybe we should just, well, I'm kind of playing with that, the angle of that there. I think that's a little too forced. Let's go like that. Okay, sure. And then he's got his rippling abdominals. So let's get that blocked in. And then we'll see some of those serratus muscles there. And his giant lat muscle. And he's got a crazy barbarian belt going on. We need to make sure we get that. I wonder if I can, I might tinker with the design on that a little bit. That seems like a fun place to mess around. Oh, and this thing has a very specific sort of shape on it. I guess we can block that in too. Okay, yep. And yeah, there's a couple of these little circular guys, or oval guys. And then it comes down, and then we get the classic barbarian loincloth. A championship belt, yeah, exactly. He is the reigning champ of Castle Grayskull, I guess. So yeah, we can mess with that, and we can also like beef his leg muscles up more if we want to. I mean, he's a pretty outrageous dude in terms of his musculature. So I think we can continue to mess with that. Like, yeah, maybe this bicep gets a little bit bigger. Maybe the tricep gets a little bit bigger. It's kind of fun because those things are really easy to adjust when we're here and working in digital. Just tweak that stuff, and we're working iteratively, so we can always modify if necessary. Okay. Cool. Some kind of a shadow going on there. I'm wondering if maybe, since we're doing this process, I wonder if maybe I need to get, well, I might just try to do the battle cat just when we're in the black phase, and I'll just try to paint it in white. That might be a mistake, but we've obviously done it twice before with the other two, so it's definitely doable. I don't like to have my process feel too convoluted. This part we're just experimenting a little bit. And then his axe, I guess I didn't really find a picture of his axe that is too clear, but I think we can basically go with a battle axe. Maybe it's a little bigger. And then it seems like there's a shape like that. And then yeah, we can definitely like dress that up and tweak that. I mean, maybe. Oh, actually, I can see there's a little knob on the end of that axe there. I don't know what the other end looks like. I guess we can try to go for a similar shape on the other end just to be safe for the moment. And then this, we're just going to see the inside, right? So we can do some kind of like a dual strap kind of thing. Some like rivets. And then, oh, he's got his classic barbarian boots. So we'll want to make sure we bring that in. They're like calf high boots. So right about there. And then maybe we should suggest a little bit of his hairdo. He's got a crazy 80s barbarian hairdo going on. Can't have He-Man without that classic hairdo, right? Okay, and we're done. Thanks for watching, everybody. No, just kidding. Okay, let's see. What do we want to do next? I kind of like what's going on. I wonder if this shield feels a little bit too. It feels like it's maybe like, inverted or whatever. I think I'm gonna push this shape a little bit, and in the process, we're probably gonna make his hand look weird, which is fine. We'll just fix it. Fix it in post. We'll do it live. I can't say the other part because I don't want to get a strike on my channel. But you guys, if you know, you know. All right. Let's do a flip. Contemplate possible Dutch angles. Kind of like a little bit of like a tilt, like that's kind of cool. Like maybe he's got a little bit of a angled terrain going on. It's in front of Castle Grayskull, right? So I guess we need to go for one of the, again, like kind of a mountainous terrain thing. I hate to feel repetitive with some of these environmental choices, but it does feel like that's a very like classic sort of choice here. What does that mean to play us out? I forgot about that part. That's probably one of the best parts, actually. Okay, yeah, so let's see. We got, well, I don't know that if I want to go with like a hilltop, or maybe I do. I don't know. Anyway, I think we just want to have some kind of a dramatic diagonal there, and maybe we'll have like some cool, like, light hitting his sword, and he's all amped up. He's like, had his Monster Energy drink, and he's ready to rock and roll. Let's see. This is definitely a good space to liquefy because we don't want to be liquefying later because it kind of softens everything. I know that it's supposed to be non-destructive, but I'm sure you guys know when you're dealing with crisp lines, you liquefy, everything gets a little blurry, and that's not so hot. Works pretty good in a painting when everything's a little soft, but if you're doing something that's graphic, it's a little bit limited in how far you can move stuff. So this is a good phase to do it in. And we're just trying to kind of push some of the dynamics. Little things about the figure can really make something feel like the difference between a stiff pose and a dynamic pose. A tilt of a shoulder line, or the angle of a pelvic box, or the all that kind of stuff really does make a big difference. Oops, let's move him up in the composition. I wonder if, you know, if we're playing with organic terrain here, it might be interesting to play with the idea that maybe he has this is hilarious. No, okay, hold on everybody, just wait for it. There's a plan. Yeah, see, you just gotta trust me. It's not gonna look stupid. I was thinking about maybe having him confidently on some kind of rocky element here, or on the skulls of his victims. Wait, no, he's not a villain. We can't quite get that evil with it, but yeah, I think that might be kind of cool. It's definitely kind of ups the epic factor of the pose there. This is kind of like, you know, if you were gonna set up, you know, some people, they'll buy like a little like a anatomy reference doll or figurine that they can pose. They'll take shots of it. I actually have a couple of them that I'll use sometimes. And you know what we're doing here with this phase is what we might be doing with like a 3D model or a pose doll, where we're sort of just like tinkering with the pose, adjusting things until we feel like it works, or changing our camera angle, right? And so when we do it this way, where we're not really looking at one specific reference, then I like to kind of use this phase to almost as if we were sort of you know, manipulating a figurine or something, right? So now we like play with like, okay, does his upper body lean back a little bit? Like, does that make him look more epic? And yeah, it kind of does, right? Let's turn this layer off so we can kind of see what we're working with. I think that the angle of the battle axe starts to get a little questionable here. We got to be careful with that. Let's flip this, make sure we're not missing something obvious. Maybe that Dutch angle's a little extreme. Okay. Maybe we'll do another little liquefy here on this belt area. Pull that up slightly. Field goal kicker, yep. He's getting his reps in. He's ready for the big day. Okay, and then yeah, so maybe if this is, I'm trying to think about the battle cat now, trying to make my life difficult. Let's do this on another layer. That's the first thing, so I can tinker and not worry about stuff. So let's say the cat's here and kind of like standing like this. Again, that might be too small. I think I'm like thinking about this battle cat just generally too small. And he's got to ride this thing. So what I'm wondering is, do we kind of go with this angle, right? Feel like that's probably a good call. His head gets covered up by the shield, which is a little unfortunate, but let's flip this again. And let's try flipping the cat. Well, I guess we flipped him, and then we're gonna oh, see, what's cool though is that creates a nice little pocket for his battle cat to show up, so maybe that is the right choice. Okay, I guess that's the right choice. We'll just go with that. We'll give him a little fun smiley mouth for right now, because it's a fun doodle. Later he's gonna look all angry. Give him some actual volume to his body here. And then, yeah, I think we just kind of taper off his backside there. And we can have his tail doing something like that. And then Castle Grayskull, you know, is doing some cool thing back here, right? You got evil skull face, probably in 3/4 because I don't want to make it look too flat, but you know. What is Castle Grayskull? I'm trying to remember. I guess it's just kind of, it's got like two, and it has two big towers flanking it, right? And then there's like a helmety kind of thing on the skull. And then, I mean, I'm okay doing a little bit of an adaptation of it as long as I get the basic shape correct. But yeah, there's like some sort of gothic-y stone windows and stuff going on. So we'll do something like that. Okay, I'm going to save my work. If you're doing something right now, remember to save your work. And then we'll just sort of like, we'll just analyze this for a moment. Okay, yeah. I think that might just work. So we'll put these in a folder. And we'll lower the opacity. And now we have a decision to make. Do we transition now to the white on black phase, or do we do another dark on light phase to refine it even more? This is quite the question. This is... because there's a world where we would actually just finish this thing in dark on light form, in a traditional sketch form, and then we would sort of transform it into the light on dark variant. And I'm kind of curious, like how much slower would that be, and what would be the kind of quality boost or the detail boost that we would get out of that approach? And how much of it would be just lost because the light on dark version would sort of require its own sort of approach, right? Like, that's interesting. I'm gonna try to go one step further with this dark on light version, and then we'll just see. And yeah, maybe this piece just takes us another extra stream to do, because we're experimenting a little bit, but I'm kind of okay with that. The other thing that I sometimes like to do is I'll take the underdrawing, and this is typically going to be more for when you have an underdrawing that's a little bit messier, or there's just more dense information in it, is I like to colorize it, so that way it doesn't distract me as much from the new lines that I'm putting on top. And I feel like this underdrawing is starting to have, you know, a little bit more information in it, to where I think we want to start to help our eyes see the new lines a little bit easier. So I usually like to go with some kind of like an orange or yellow, so it kind of blends into the background a bit. And so now if we put some lines on top, you can see those are super, super visible. And what it lets you do as well is it lets you have the opacity of your underdrawing be a little higher than it might normally be if it was a gray, because the gray would feel like it was interfering, right? So you'd have to tone it way, way back. But if it's colored, you can keep the opacity a little bit higher and you can see it better, and the color is creating that separation. So next time you're trying this type of process, try that. Try to colorize your underdrawing, and it might just help you see it better. Okay, so yeah, so we're gonna like kind of pretend like maybe we're gonna make use of another pass on this on this version here. So just kind of look and see where I want him to be looking. Something that I find to be helpful when you're trying to figure out a face is just start with little dots for the eyes, like that. You don't have to go into it's like if you start doing this is particularly the case for people who do like anime eyes that have like, you know, like a million highlights and like sparkles and like I don't draw anime, so this is going to look weird, but like, you know, if you start drawing all of this detail in for the eye by itself might look really cool, but then it looks like it's all Picassoed on the face, and we don't want to have that. So just try putting a dot in first and just see, does it look okay as a dot on the face? And if that's not working, then no amount of crazy details is going to make that work. Let's see what kind of expression we want him to have here. Give him kind of like a, I'm going to flip often here so I don't have any symmetry issues. I want to make sure too that he has a very like kind of strong jaw, and he has like those very strong cheekbones going on, some iconic features of He-Man that we don't want to miss. Do I want to go a little larger with the mouth? So the thought is that if we have a little bit more of this this version developed, then maybe our light on dark pass will be faster, easier, more accurate. I don't know. Again, an experiment. So let's see how it goes. Slide that over just slightly. I'm not too concerned about shading at this point. I just want shapes to work with basically. So I'm also not too worried about line weight because this stuff is all going to kind of go away. Okay, let's see. I guess I can do a little bit of like kind of design tinkering here with this. This is where, as we get into some design tweaking and embellishment, I sort of will get a little bit looser because I like to kind of let the canvas speak back to me and let some accidents occur that give me ideas for design. And if we're too rigid and too tight, then I won't get any of that stuff. Okay. Hmm. A certain kind of expression I want that I'm just kind of hunting for. I think it's all right for the moment. We can definitely tinker with it more later. It's interesting because this outfit's kind of simple. So the places where we do have a little bit of armor and whatever going on, it's kind of like I want to take some liberties in those areas to try and make it a little, spice it up a little bit, right? You don't have a lot of chances to do that. Okay, and then let's see, get his bicep, his tricep going on. Actually, don't want to do that. I want to do that, and then I'll just do a very quick suggestion of the serratus muscles. Serratus muscles. Is it serratus or serratus? I never know. I've heard it said both ways. I should look that up. Especially being like an art teacher, it's helpful to know the pronunciation of all the like Latin terminologies. Well, there'll definitely be less guesswork in the next phase. That's for sure. We're figuring out a lot. The other thing that's interesting too about a process where there's many different passes is that the first impression can be that many passes means more time spent, and I've definitely found that to be not true in a lot of cases, because if each pass it has is very informed and there's not a lot of guesswork in each pass, then it's really just plowing full steam ahead, right? Like there's not a lot of guesswork in it. And so, in your attempt to be quick and efficient with only one pass, you might undo a lot of stuff. You might make more mistakes. You might kind of flip flop on ideas a lot, and or the piece just might not be as strong. But if you spend the time and do like 3 passes, it might actually end up being faster in the end. It's kind of counterintuitive, I think, sometimes. So this is why, again, I want to kind of try this, because could be that it may not take us any more time than if we'd done it all straight in the other way, where I'm pushing and pulling things a lot, whereas in this method I feel like it might be a little more straightforward. Here again, I'm thinking, is there an opportunity to maybe amplify the design of this belt a bit? Could there be some kind of a beefier framework to this this main gem section here? When you're assessing where to add details to a design, you want to think about where is the focus of the design, where is there more, well, yeah, where do you want to draw attention, but also where there's maybe more function. In a belt like this, it doesn't really have a lot of function exposed, but if you had a belt that had like a buckle that was, like a fastener that you could see, that area would be good to have more detail, because detail implies that there's purpose to it, right? More function. And the interesting thing is, when we talk about pleasing design ratios, you sort of want to detail areas that are already tending to have the detail, and leave the areas alone that aren't having detail. So you sort of concentrate your effort in these certain places. And you'll hear people talk about ratios sometimes, like a 70-30 ratio, where you have like 70% of this sort of like visual rest where there isn't detail, and then you'll have 30% where it's concentrated. Or you can do something like like 75 70 25-5, where it's like, this is like a color scheme, right? Like this is like all kind of neutral, and then this is maybe a little bit more prominent, and then this is like your glowing elements or your neon elements or something, right? So different ways, but you get the idea, right? Like you don't want to sort of just put information everywhere. And there's some artists that make that work, but it is against the grain. It's not something that typically works very easily. And you have to really know what you're doing to get away with breaking some of those rules. So yeah, maybe there's like some extra little brackety things. I'm a big fan of brackets. They add weight to things. So it's kind of fun, right? Because we're doing like a tribute to a known character, but we're also able to talk a little bit about design, which I think is fun. Yeah, if we were going in with line weight, I would I'd be putting all kinds of like darker elements in certain areas and stuff, but not this time, not with this particular process. But yeah, if you guys like seeing me do this more like I guess a typical sort of sketching style or whatever, then leave a comment, let me know. Um, Something that I definitely enjoy doing as well. If you guys want to see more of my stuff, you can always check me out on ArtStation or Instagram, or I've got a DeviantArt as well. And there I kind of share just all kinds of stuff that I create that has different sort of looks, and a lot of it is not fan art stuff. A lot of it is just my own ideas and designs. Give him a little ear indicator there. Okay. And again, I'm not going nuts with some of the detailing here because I know we're going to end up changing this, but yeah, I want all the major stuff figured out. Again, see, even the hand, it's like, well, I mean, do we need to, like, you know, do we even need to get into details with the hand? And I don't know, maybe we do. Like, you know, I want to kind of get like a good grip going on with his, you know, like I'm not quite sure what lighting we're going for yet. Probably top down lighting, you know, just to make things easy for ourselves. But and you know, use your own hands as a reference for this kind of thing, right? Does he have? Oh, he has bracers. We didn't even put in his cool bracers. They're kind of like. Well, again, I can kind of revise that design a little bit if I want to, but yeah, I'll just make sure we get those suggested. I think they've got some big circular elements on there. Does his forearm feel a little? I feel like he needs a little bit more beefiness to his forearm. Let's go a little bigger with that. Yeah, there we go. That's a guy who can punch a hole in a car window. Strap number 1. Oh, the angle's a little weird there. Okay, sure, and I guess that's going to overlap this piece here. And then strap numero dos. Neat. It's a bag of shield. It can't be that neat. Anyway, we're making it work. Okay, so let's see now. Again, I won't care too much about perfect ellipses at this phase, but we'll just block in a little shape for this here. Whoops. There we go. And I'll take this. I'll do a little bit of a hack here. I'll just duplicate this line out to give us some thickness. Again, you can make a selection and then hold Alt and drag, and it will just duplicate that piece out. It's very helpful. And then I think there's some sort of a concave quality to this shield, so I'll suggest some depth to it there. And then we'll see kind of where that lands in terms of lighting later, because it may be that putting detail in that piece is not worth it. So I think we can just leave it as a circular piece for now. All right, let's get in here and get this hand figured out. Whoops. 3. Count the fingers. Don't miss the number of fingers. There we go. Some knuckles going on. And then the sword, I think we just go with kind of what we had. I think we had a reasonable amount of information already for that. I guess I want that pommel to be a bit more prominent. And I'm cool, like, maybe adding a little bit of flair to this sword too. Like, if you're looking at the toy as a reference, it is very basic, and I guess in the animation as well, it's quite basic. So on Skeletor, we didn't embellish it too much, and I don't want to invalidate our choice there, but yeah, we'll see. And that sword looks bent. Nice job. Okay. Short. And it also looks small, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's fix that. I mean, it's, if anything, we want the sword to feel too big, right? I'd rather the sword be too big than too small. That was like we were getting kind of like a dagger kind of feel out of that. Okay. And then I need to angle this again. Like, I think later we're going to probably like use some more exact lines. And then we got to put his bracer on. The joy of armored elements like this is that they create little free contour lines on the forearm. So if anybody was questioning, well, what's the angle of this forearm? It's like, well, it's a cylinder, and now you know it's a cylinder facing this way because now we've got these contours going all wrapping around it. So if you're designing something for an illustration and you have freedom to make it your own design or tweak the design, and you're having trouble, like let's say there's a character and their arm is like coming right at us. Okay, so here's like their upper arm, here's their shoulder, here's their forearm, and then here's like their hand, right? It's like, well, the outline of this is probably really, really kind of obscure and muddy, right? So throw like some kind of detail. Maybe it's like the end of a shirt, or it's a bracer, or a glove or something, so that you get some contours that wrap, because every time you can create a contour like that, it just really helps sell the angle. All right, I think that we are good on the upper body. Oh, we got to do the axe. We might as well just kind of work on that a little bit too. I'll just do some kind of a fancy little tiered shape here. Again, avoiding the tangents with his head and all that other stuff. You don't want it to look awkward. And then we're keeping that little arrow shape. I'm going to change a little bit of the angle. And then I suppose we should draw a straight line all the way through, so that way we know. Wow, that was really thick. Okay, let's go right there, and then we'll just duplicate that to either side. And then we will erase. And we erase. Cool. Merge it down. Add a little doodad on the end with the proper brush. Some mega fan is going to be like, the end of his axe is actually supposed to be a replica of the ancient stones of Eternia, with the history inscribed in a horizontal pattern around the perimeter in rungs that signify the, and then it'll be over. All right, hopefully that's okay. All right, let's see. Should we go on to the lower body? Yeah, I think we can move on now to the big old quadricep enhanced leg forms. I'm just trying to judge how beefy, you know, we can make this before it starts to look absurd. That's probably reasonable. And then I guess, do we get, I guess maybe, I'm trying to see, so the angle, I think maybe we get, yeah, a little bit of that medius right in there. That'd be probably in shadow. And we get his cool, like, fluffy barbarian sneakers. No, they're not sneakers. His cool, super cool Skechers. What were those shoes with the wheels on the heels? Heelys? I think they were called Heelys. Yeah. Should give him some sweet barbarian Heelys. What is going on? I guess he's just got like leather. Should we give him... I kind of want to like maybe give him some kind of cool like metal end cap to his barbarian boots. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that. That's a kind of a subtle thing, but I think it works pretty good. Okay, now leg number 2. Oops, actually, you know, we're gonna have visibility of this back muscle here, and then this is gonna come in higher like that. It helps to be familiar with the anatomy, of course, when you're doing this stuff. Massive calf muscles, and then accentuated by fluffy barbarian boots. Carry that down. And I guess we give him a little beefier end cap for actually we didn't really determine how far that toe cap comes in there. It's a little hard to tell on this foot, right? So maybe we'll okay. Some design decisions to make there. It's also a shape choice to make, right? Like we can let's see. Okay, I think I don't like it being too bulky. I think it's nicer when it's got kind of a taper to it. So maybe we'll leave it something like that, and then I guess we need to do the wraps. And a lot of this stuff might just disappear in our other pass, but I don't really mind. Like it's all going, I think, pretty smoothly. So And then I don't think it's worth it to put any line art in for this rocky terrain. Like, maybe we'll just very quickly put in a little outline for some of the shapes that we wanted, but I think we can just kind of finesse that in the final version, and that'll be the same for the castle back there. I think we can just wing that when we get to it, but I think I do want to probably do some of the line art for the battle cat, because the battle cat has armor on, and I've got a picture of it from the original cartoon over here, and it looks cool, but I think maybe we can tweak it a little bit. I think in the face area in particular, there's a sort of a, well, I'd say that the design feels very unique. I think we'll leave it at that. So like, yeah, let's see what we can do. But I think let's just get the base cat working, and I guess it's like a tiger, I guess, is the thing it's modeled after. It has kind of like stripes, so we'll go kind of tiger-esque with this. Fair warning, I'm more of a human artist than an animal artist, so this will be interesting. There'll probably be some kind of animal expert out there who could give us some pro tips on drawing animals, but we'll just give it our best shot here. Get rid of that silly little smiley mouth that we had before. Sorry if you were really a big fan of the smiley mouth, but yeah, I think we got to probably leave that by the wayside, unfortunately. And I am definitely going to be flipping this because there's a high chance that this is going to be slightly janked, and I don't want to be having a janked cat face going on. Sorry for the frequent flipping and zooming, but that's just kind of how it goes when you're trying to get something to work. Okay, and then there's like a shape, kind of like, well, see, the thing is, what's interesting about animals is that you get it a little bit wrong, and then it changes from a cat into a bear. So you gotta kind of make sure we don't accidentally transform this into the wrong animal. I mean, I guess at least the bear is still a formidable animal, so it wouldn't be super far off, but it would not be the desired animal. So yeah, we'll try for big cat here. I guess you can probably see a little bit of the teeth there. Probably a little bit of scruffies down there on the bottom of the chin area. This might be a little high, I think, or a little low. I think it might need to be higher for cat. And then I'm actually gonna shrink that head a little bit. Let's move it over there. Okay, and there's going to be the tail back there. Okay, so that's kind of a base. Now we can do the armor stuff because yeah, that's going to cover up a lot of what's going on. Another reason why I didn't want to get too crazy with the base there. And I might go actually pretty chunky with this brush for the design phase of the armor, because I think this is the area where I'm most unsure of what shapes to go with here. So it's interesting because, like, yeah, their armor does cover up the nose. It kind of gives it almost like a beak, which is, yeah, it's a little strange. But there's some very prominent ridges here. I do like that there's these sort of like pointed things here on the sides of the helm. That's kind of cool. And there's a fairly prominent crest shape to this top area. Yeah, see, it's the silhouette that you don't want to change the silhouette too much, because that starts to just feel like a completely different design. But the inner details, you have a little more room to kind of mess around with that. So let's see what we can make work. And then he's got like some back armor. It's actually like a big circular element here, so we can definitely include that. That's kind of cool. And then there's the saddle, which is like back here. There's like a seat here, so we can indicate that there's some sort of like a softer material on that section. And then I kind of like this circular element here, so maybe we can put another one in back here. And then, yeah, I guess there is some sort of a prominent like piece here. Then maybe we continue that back here. And then we got a little connecty guy there. So obviously the line weights look really bad there, but we're going to drop it back, and I'll do a kind of a slightly more refined pass on it. Let's get a little drink of tea. I guess that leg gets a little hidden there, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay, let's drop this back. And I guess we should drop this back as well. Oh, I could turn off the underdrawing that we had for He-Man. We'll colorize this so we can not get distracted by it. New layer, and in we go with a more refined version of the armor. Let's not cut that in half. The rule of thirds coming in to give us a hand. See that shape. Okay, I think we can actually go with that circular motif that we're going to have here on the helmet as well. That sounds kind of interesting. Yeah, hopefully you can kind of see how, like, doing this in passes definitely makes it a little bit more approachable. Okay, sure. Let's go with that. Now we have to mirror our design to the other side, which can be tricky in perspective. I think we'll make sure we flip this to ensure that it's looking all right. This connection here is a little weird. I don't love it, so maybe we try to make it a little more obvious what's going on. Time for the flip. How bad did we do? Oh, okay, yeah, it's actually not too bad. I think maybe we would see a little bit of that circular element sticking out there. Do I want to suggest maybe a little bit more armor back here? Again, I don't want to change the silhouette too much. That's going to be a no-go. But I'm thinking maybe we do want to suggest... Because actually, you know, in the original, there is a pretty big chunky piece of armor all the way along the neck. So yeah, maybe we can get away with just a little piece there. And I think we'll leave that off. And then we can do this piece here. I'm gonna be real curious to see how much of this actually ends up showing up in the final version. Because part of what makes that other style look really cool is when you have things kind of like ill-defined, right? Like that's kind of one of the tricks of that style, is that you let the eye fill in some of that information. And so even though we're sort of defining everything here fairly clearly, we don't necessarily want to just go in and be that hyper-defined in our final presentation of this. So yeah, we might lose some of this information, but the hope is that with it all here, though, we can just make some very educated choices about where we're showing things and where we're not. That is the theory. But it's probably also good practice to just try and do that without having an underdrawing like this at all, which is kind of what we did for Skeletor and Evil Lyn, right? And I did enjoy that, but I do like playing with different approaches to things. Okay, cool. Let's do... little shapes there. Okay, let's save our work. If you're doing something, make sure you're saving your work. Don't lose stuff. And, oh, I guess I forgot to do the little strap down here. Not that we needed to really design anything here, although I guess I could put, you know, maybe... I actually want it to go the other way, right? So we could do a full buckle there. And then maybe we have this come off like this. A little bit extra realism and function to that section. Yep, exactly. Okay. Sure. Let's roll with that. There's some part of me that wants to have like something kind of hanging here. Could you have like a pendant or something? I don't know. It seems kind of cool, right? Like some kind of a magic little amulet for his tiger buddy. Okay. Just to have that. It's a little extra something. A little extra personalization. So yeah, let's get rid of this underdrawing here, the orange, and then we can bring, I'll just put that behind everything. We can bring this drawing back to full opacity, and then we'll erase a little bit of this original tiger underneath the armor. Although, yeah, most of that gets pretty preserved, which is cool. Oops, I erased his eye, my bad. And I think we'll go with like glowing eyes for the tiger. I think that'd look really cool. Yeah, it's a pretty good base, right? Like, yeah, it's a little loose, a little janky. I mean, if I were to if we were to do this like as dark on light as the final presentation, then we'd knock this back. We'd go and we'd do a final pass and we'd add like blacks. Although it's something that could be interesting to do though is if we were to add big graphic shadows to this pass, then we could use that for the light on dark pass, right? Because we'd basically just select all those shadows. We'd select the inverse and then we'd paint the light in on the inverse. That's a thought, right? Okay, cool. See, we're learning stuff as we go. Let's try it. I'm going to lower the opacity on it, though, just so I can see my, like, my line art and stuff. So, yeah, let's choose lighting here. I think what I want to do is have light kind of coming off the sword here. So we'll have light kind of casting that way. And then, yeah, I mean, we could play with light from somewhere else. But, yeah, I think we'll just have light kind of casting from the left I'll try to avoid cutting things in half. That's always a good design choice. Kind of go 3/4 with the lighting. Even though I guess this is kind of a little bit to the side, but we could say I guess it's kind of a little bit in front too. We'll fudge it a little bit. Hopefully it won't look too weird. So we'll have the light coming from the sword casting this way. So we'll have shadowing all on the right hand side, and then we'll do some rim lighting off on the opposite side to get a lot of dimension to the forms. So what we want to do is we want to think about like some shadow shapes that are going to be happening from that main light source, right? And this is the step where we are starting to envision how this might look in the other version, because think about all these areas we're not putting shadow. That would be that white area that we would be painting in. So it's kind of like the same thing, just a little bit of like the inverse of that. And I gotta say, I'm kind of liking maybe this approach, but we won't really know how well it's going to work until we finish this thing out and we can assess it in its complete form. But I have some positive vibes going on so far. So you can see I'm not going a full black, so I can still see the drawing a little bit, but I'm trying to go kind of heavy with it because we know that in the end, these shadow shapes are going to just be black. And so I want to have visibility on what that will look like. So this is interesting here. This axe, I guess it's all in shadow. I mean, this is on its own layer, so we can come in and we can definitely adjust this easily. We got anybody in the Twitch chat? Twitch chat's been a little quiet this stream. Got some people on the YouTubes though, so that's good. See, the interesting thing is that since the background isn't black yet, we're having this shadow go all the way up to the edge of the arm. But when this shadow goes black and the background goes black, we're going to lose the entire edge of this. So we're going to have to bring in some lighting in the back here potentially. I don't know. We'll see. Like that's the feeling I'm getting right now from it. But I think we'll just have to kind of assess it when we get to that phase. This feels like this probably wants to be like a kind of a indicated half tone there, but I'm gonna leave it alone. We'll see what we want to do there. Again, we don't want to get too lost in half tones with this technique. But if we feel like we really are struggling and we need some kind of suggested mid-tone, then we can rely on some hatching to execute that. But I've seen some examples of people do this kind of stuff, and really the ones that look the coolest are the ones where they manage to make it readable without relying on too many, getting lost too much in like the halftones or the complex shading of things. Like if you can get it to work graphically with simple light and dark, then you're succeeding. Uh-oh, got a little tangent there. We can deal with that later. As hard as you might try to avoid all tangents, one will usually just sneak in there somehow still. They're very sneaky like that. So you can hopefully get a sense for how I'm trying to plan for the light coming from here. And then I guess, yeah, we get a little shadow off this piece. I think I want to make sure this curves in a convex way. In fact, I don't know if we'll see light on that piece there. We might not. Let's see what happens if we cut the shadow there. Go a little shadow on this ab, and then we'll go more shadow on this ab, and then I think maybe we just lose this whole, his left side, our right side in shadow. You can see just a little hint of that light there on that harness chest armor piece, which is kind of cool. Maybe there's a little hint of shadow there from that oblique cutting into the abs. I guess we'd want to do that a little further in, wouldn't we? Does this cast a shadow across the body? I mean, what would be cool is if we had just like, you know, like a He-Man posable action figure, and we could like cast the light on him, right? And we could see exactly how all these shapes form. But I kind of enjoy the puzzle of this though, right? Like you draw it out and then you sort of figure out, you know, how all these volumes might get hit by the light. That is a fun puzzle for me to solve. So it's kind of fun as we can turn this off, right? And we can get an impression of what we might be looking at later. It's interesting, right? It's interesting how much more realistic something like this can look, where yeah, you're missing information. You don't have contours around everything, which is artificial anyway, right? Like things with outlines look fake. They look stylized. So you've got that going for you, and then you've got that filling in of the gaps that your brain does, and it's like you can kind of envision like almost photographic detail, which is kind of what we're striving for. So yeah, it's a really fun experiment. Let's go. I actually did this little line on the sketch in the inverse of what I would want. Let's flip it. Not that you're going to see the lines later anyway, but we're going to just flip it just because I'm being OCD about this. I mean, that might be, I think all artists have just a little hint of that in them. Just to be thorough about stuff. Shading gems is a lot like shading an eye. where you have that clear lens on top, and then you've got the concave surface on the inside, right? So you know, if you're doing an eye, um, random demo, but like if the light's coming from up here, make sure you don't move your canvas randomly, first of all. So you're going to have the surface, the dome, the clear dome on the top reflect the light, and then the light's going to pass through the clear lens, and it's going to illuminate the opposite side of the concave surface behind it, right? And then you're going to get real fancy about it. You can think about the sort of clamshell of sky and ground. So you can bring in just a little hint of reflective sky and ground. And so if you combine all those things together, you can get something that starts to feel very gem-like, or like a translucent eye or something. You actually want that sky and ground thing to curve. I did it straight, but you'd want it to curve around, bend around the sphere. You get the idea, hopefully. Hello, Bangu. Bangu, how are you doing? So yeah, that was why I was doing that gem flip, because we're going to put some shading on that guy. And I should be using my flat brush because we don't need texture in this phase. You're hanging in there? You just got in from Captain America and hoping you can recover. Oh, you mean like the movie? Did you go see a new movie? The newest one? Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't know that I've heard a lot about it yet, but sounds like it might not have been the best experience. The reviews weren't great, but you give even the latest Marvel projects the benefit of the doubt. It's getting harder and harder. Hey, no worries, man. I get it. Like, you know, you want something to be good, and then you go and you're just like, man, I don't know. That wasn't quite, you weren't quite feeling it. I totally get that. And then there's like the opposite feeling when you go and you've got super low expectations, and then you leave and you're just like, damn, that movie was really sweet. I love those, right? Where you're just not expecting it. I can think of so many movies that were like that, where I went in and I just had no clue what it was going to be, or if it was going to be any good. And I was like, damn, that was sweet. but yeah, maybe an equal amount of the opposite experience. There's actually only one movie that I've ever walked out of. It was with my dad. We went and saw, I mean, this is like eons ago at this point, but my dad and I went to go see a movie called The Bride of Chucky. And we just couldn't hang. It was just a little too rough for us, which I kind of appreciate its campiness now, having watched it again many years later. But man, when you're like a captive audience in a theater, I feel like it's a little harder to stomach some of the narrative decisions in that one. It's a very obscure movie, though. I don't think anybody ever watching this video will have seen it. But it's a sequel to like the well-known Child's Play horror movies of the 80s. I think that one came out probably in like late 90s, early 2000s, I think. Save your work, everybody. Okay, let's do a little check here. Okay, yeah, we're definitely getting something kind of interesting coming together. Neato, as Jim Carrey would say. The battle cat is going to be interesting with this light situation, because yeah, we're going to have quite a bit of shadow down here. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll find out how it looks. Nothing but positive vibes on your end, Jared. Good. Good to hear. Got to keep the positive vibes going. Oh, we kind of like stopped doing this hand over here, didn't we? Let's fix that. Uh, yeah. So we're still doing scratchboard, but we're approaching it differently. We're gonna try to do it dark on light first. So if we kind of turn off the lines here, um, and then so just as a preview, kind of, this is gonna be like, obviously this is not gonna look great yet, but here, let me just kind of show you kind of what's gonna happen here. So if we do this, we do this. So we're sort of like, yeah, we're approaching it in the inverse, and then we're going to kind of work into it. We'll obviously have to fill this out, and the background will obviously be black, right? But you can kind of just imagine. Whoa, nope. Come on, what's my keyboard doing? My keyboard's freaking out. Stop, keyboard. Come on, there we go. So I'm just going to kind of do this real quick so you guys can kind of see what's going to happen here. Yep. Yeah, hopefully kind of can tell now what might be happening with this sort of look. And then we'll have to kind of add in some selective rim lighting where we need to kind of fill in the forms. But this is just in an effort to kind of like, well, I don't know. It was, if you go back and you watch the beginning of the stream, I kind of talk about some of the ideas behind why I wanted to try this. But it's basically, it's an experiment. It's like, let's draw it first. And then let's put some shadow shapes in, and then let's try and like hit it from the opposite angle and see what happens. And I think it might work. I think the real question is going to be not whether we can make it work. I think the question will just be, is it a lot slower or not? That is the thing I'm very curious about, and we won't know until the end. Because we're going to, like this stream, we're kind of getting close to the end on this stream, and, it's seemingly we haven't even started at all on the final version of this. But I wonder if when we get to it, though, it'll actually come together fairly quickly due to our efforts today. So you'll have to swing by next time to see how it's come together. But I just tend to think a little bit. It's a little more intuitive for me to think about dark on light. So that was, I think, the crux of the decision here to experiment. That edge is going to be tricky, isn't it? He'll stay tuned. All right, sounds good. But yeah, no, we have not abandoned the style at all. And you'll notice too that like even in this shadow pass, I'm not sticking to the lines perfectly because it's like there's really no reason to. We can with each pass we can continue to sculpt a little bit and refine. Might as well take advantage of the fact that we're doing this in multiple stages. Okay, we're going to cheat. I'm going to use the polygonal lasso to get this shadow in place. There we go. Easy mode. So that's all probably in shadow back there. And maybe we catch a little shadow piece there. Maybe there's some shadow casting off of this down here. Maybe we just sort of include some kind of a shadow here for composition's sake. Okay, let's get our battle cat lit from above. Kind of in front and above, right? Because he's like, the sword's in front of him, so. And I'll worry about the eyes glowing later. That can be a final step sort of thing. He's got his cool visor, so he's ready for a sunny day at the beach. Scary big shadows. Here they come. Look out. Man, I bet that shadow would actually be casting pretty far down. Again, I wish we had our little 3D model of a tiger we could put in to a program and just see how low does it go. And then, you know, I guess if the light's coming from here, well, it's omnidirectional, but yeah, I think we're going to have this head casting. Oh, do we get like a shadow from the ear coming down like this? Is that something that could happen? Maybe. And then his nose sticks out, so... As the puzzles get tricky, I love it. Let's put some shadow here at the base of this seat area. And then shadow on this side. Oh no, we're running out of time. That's okay. I actually feel quite good about where we got to with this first stream. I think we got a lot of the major shadow shapes figured out. You know, we kind of know the composition. We know a lot that we didn't know when we started. And that is a good feeling. Oh, what's the puzzle there? Does that... I guess we light it like this. Cast a shadow down, and then to the right. Yep. Sure. Let's go with that. And then maybe this buckle, because it comes out, it kind of catches the light a little bit on the edge there. It's also kind of cool seeing where one shadow behind another lit form, you know, helps it stand out. So like this this boot here, right? Like this boot shape becomes a lot more obvious when we frame it in shadow, and this shadow wouldn't necessarily be here if we didn't put that cap behind. Now I know that's not going to have relevancy in the same way when we invert this image, basically. Well, not invert it, but you know what I mean. But still, you know, like that's the counter change of value is relevant in this form or in the inverse. And it's just kind of cool seeing how that puzzle comes together. So cat gets all shadowed on that side there. I guess we get, let's see, how does that shadow work on this leg? That's a tricky one. I think we have a little bit of like a column, like a center column lighting on that. Probably have to gradate that a little bit. And then, you know, his paw is like a box shape, right? So we can kind of think of it like that. I think we can treat this one lit a little bit more from the side. And then this is the mountain face kind of blocking our view of his other foot there. I kind of like that shadow creeping in a little triangle there. And then I do want to have some shadow on this piece that kind of comes in on the saddle area. And then maybe we get some actual shadow contours for those individual seat pieces that could kind of create like a cool little stripy pattern in that area. And now let's give the tail some shadow. And let's try to paint in the lines at least reasonably well. I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't paint on a screen-based device. I mean, very rarely. I do have one, and I do use it from time to time. But everything that I do on stream here is done on a non-screen-based device. And you might be wondering, why the heck would you do that? Like, aren't you supposed to be a professional? Why don't you have like professional tools? And there's many reasons. One is because when I first started doing digital art, there were no screen-based devices, so I had to learn on one of these non-screen tablets. So I got used to it. But the second thing is that there's a certain sort of ergonomics that is, I think, improved with a non-screen based device. I don't really like to kind of be hunched leaning over on a screen. You know, and when I'm on stream too, I like to kind of be a little bit more open to the camera. And I know there's plenty of people who make it work. But just for me personally, I just like the ergonomics of a non-screen based tablet. The downside to it is that some line precision is a little bit tricky, especially certain arcs, you know, and like, you know, stuff that maybe you'd want to like rotate the page or rotate the screen to kind of get a better mark. Like there is some of that, but because digital allows you to sort of rotate, skew, undo, move, you know, I'm sort of able to like kind of work around some of that slight loss of precision. But if I'm working on something and I just need like an insane amount of precision and I need to work really quickly, I will go over to my Cintiq. I think the thing I'll tend to do on there most is like if I have to do really clean lines or I have to do a lot of color fill, like flats, put flats in on something really quickly. I will sometimes switch to the screen-based one. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious if like, is this front face of the tiger supposed to be shadowed? Like, I think that's just a weird choice. Like, I think graphically it's just weird, so I think we're gonna try and make this work. And then we'll get the background in next time. So yeah, just we'll turn down the lines quite a bit here so you can still see them a little bit, but hopefully seeing the shadow shapes like this gives you a little preview as to what we're going to be working towards next week when we switch this into the scratchboard style that we've been working with. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first stab at making the He-Man fan art piece. It's been a lot of fun, and I've been definitely enjoying trying a little bit of a new strategy for this. So we'll pick it up next time, and I hope I'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.